tabletop role-playing news. We aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morrus is unofficial tabletop RPG doggy.
Hello, and welcome to Morris's unofficial tabletop RPG talk. I am Russ, aka Morrus, or Morrus, aka Russ. We weren't here last week because we were busy performing our show live in front of a massive studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
There were, in fact, more people in the room than there were on stage, which is all that counts.
Yes.
But we are here this week, and with me is
PJ Copy from the Southampton Guild of Role Players and Homebrew and Hacking TTRPG Design. Russ, as ever, I am delighted, and also my cup runneth over. My joy is filled to the brim because when I heard how Jess was feeling initially when she was coming, I imagined she was taking part in the Iditarod, possibly pulling sleds, but no, it turns out she's actually channeling the spirits of 1970s and 1980s KGB agents. It's the resident femme fatale. It's the one. It's only. It's
me, Jessica from EM Publishing. I have conquered. As Russ said, last week we were at the UK Games Expo, and there were many people there, and one of them, at least one of them, had a horrible cold and came to the convention anyway. And they've given it to me. And because my immune system does not work in the usual way, I've been sick all week. So thank you very much for that.
I escaped Concord completely.
I think
you got my share, I think, maybe.
I think you just have a working immune system. So
someone
might have passed it to you and your body went, no thanks. I got better things to do.
Mm-hmm.
It did
Whereas mine was like,
you're feeling a little husky.
Yeah. Well, we were at UK
Not
Games Expo last week, but we'll talk about UK Games Expo in a sec.
Yes.
In a second. But I wanted to open the show by talking about video games.
I love video games.
Yes.
What video
Not
games
your
do you like?
favourite video game, unfortunately.
Not Baldur's Gate 3.
Not Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Which I haven't played this week.
I've
been too sick to play video games. But anyway, sorry.
Well,
what video games are we talking about?
Well, there's 2 D&D video games that have been announced.
Ooh.
The first one is from a video game developer called Giant Skull.
Sounds big.
I mean, yeah. So let's have a look. That is their logo. They're a new video game developer. Variety announced it. The game is as yet untitled. It may have a title, but they haven't told anyone what the title is. But it's a single-player action adventure set in one of the D&D worlds. We don't know which. And we also don't know much about Giant Skull. It was founded in 2023 by the game director of those Star Wars Jedi games, Survivor and Fallen Order and God of War 3.
Oh, cool.
Are all video games.
Yeah, they're all like...
And that is a fact.
Is it right to play games big? They're quite big games with a lot of budget behind them, so it's a big, serious project, all of them. I have not played any of them. I did... The original God of War, I did play a bit of, but that was a very long time ago. And I enjoyed the story in it and the mechanics.
I played a bit of Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order, I think.
I don't believe you.
They're the ones that I think they are. They're the ones with the main guy's got ginger hair and a robot on his back that jumps off and opens doors for him. I think.
I haven't played those ones.
Assuming that's those ones, I played those ones until I got to a little bit that was a little bit too hard for me and I didn't have enough patience to do it and I stopped. So I played about 45 minutes of each of them after having paid 60 odd quid for each of the games. I got 45 minutes to pay out of them before getting to a bit that was a bit too hard for me.
You need to pay 60 quid for a game and get at least 600 hours. That's
one would hope, but no, I get 45 minutes, which is pretty standard for me.
Right, yes.
I just get to a bit that I have to try it like 3 or 4 times, and then by the 7th time to do this thing, I'm bored. By the 10th time, I can't face it now. I don't want to try and jump over this gap again. or I don't want to try and find my way through this silly little cave network again, and then I stop, and that's how video games work for me.
Okay, so maybe not one for you, but I'm sure I'm interested to see what they do with this project, because I imagine they're trying to, recapture lightning in a bottle with Baldur's Gate 3. I imagine they're trying to do something of that ilk, because they probably went, we made a lot of money doing that. Let's do that again.
Maybe. I mean, it's just almost not enough information to.
Well, I think this is the announcing that they're doing a thing, so it's probably going to be like 5 years until we actually see anything. So,
well, the director did lots of third-person fighting style games, so it seems reasonable to expect it would be a sort of a third-person fighting style game as opposed to Baldur's Gate. So, different approach. But I think they just shut down the servers for a game that I had on my wish list for ages and cannot remember. Yeah, back in February. So maybe this is something different. Maybe they're going to give that another go.
That I couldn't tell you. I can tell you about Demeo times Dungeons and Dragons : Battlemarked.
This looks interesting.
So have you heard of Demeo as a game? It's an existing game. A D&D expansion for it. So Demeo is like this tactical combat dungeon crawl video game, apparently. It's cross-platform, and you have like up to 4 players who can play this thing. And it's kind of like a 3D virtual tabletop, and you're looking down on it, and you can see as you can see in the screenshot, they look like miniatures. So it's not animated characters. Yeah,
and it looks like they have like sort of an XCOM, that's the Firaxis style XCOM movement, because you can see there's like a little blue line on the map there. The map, for listeners at home, shows a fairly interesting looking bridge fight where there's a bunch of monsters on one end and there's heroes on the other, and they're presumably trying to get across, and it's got a blue line which to me says that's how far the chap selected can move. I'm intrigued. That's promising a good time.
So as you can see, it's basically it's not D&D per se. It uses like a turn-based card system.
Yes.
But in this situation, it's going to use all the monster spells and stuff from D&D. So you can see this, and there's like these 4 cards here, which are Prismatic Spray, Alchemist Fire, Cone of Cold, and Destructive Wave.
Yes.
So while it's not D&D, I mean, they say, the quote is, they're trying to emulate the feeling of playing Dungeons and Dragons with your friends.
Yeah.
But obviously it doesn't use the D&D rules.
I mean, it looks like it's less mechanically complicated, because I know a lot of people that had never played a role-playing game came to play Baldur's Gate 3 and were a bit overwhelmed by everything going on. I think people that's played D&D that came to it was like, oh yeah, this looks familiar, I roughly know what I'm doing, this is fine. But if you were brand new to it, it was a bit like, there's all these numbers and I kind of am making choices and I don't really know the consequences and what that means. Whereas I think this is a less mechanics, less clunk, so it's a lot more accessible. So it could almost be a gateway to get someone into role playing.
Maybe,
it's all online and the adventure's on there for you. So you play through the adventure in the game. But this looks interesting. It looks fun.
It has like animated dice and everything as well.
Who doesn't love those?
I'm looking at that. That place doesn't actually have any numbers on it. It's got a skull and some swords, but it's got big animated dice in it as well. It does look fun. I mean, I don't know enough. They basically said that Demeo is quite action oriented, and D&D is more story focused. So they've had to modify the sort of Demeo core game by adding like cutscenes and richer dialogue and stuff like that to make it a little more, story focused like D&D is.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's literally just kind of battles, really, I think.
But sometimes we have D&D sessions that are like that, and that's fine. Sometimes we just want to hit things with our big swords.
Yeah, that is true. The person in charge of the narrative lead is Matt Cernett, who used to work at Wizard of the Coast. He's worked on Dungeons and Dragons, lots of D&D stuff. Also, earlier Baldur's Gate video games, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 he worked on. Not 3, I'm afraid, but...
It's okay. Not everyone can.
It's still Baldur's Gate, though.
It is. It is still the gate.
So it still counts. And this one, this adventure takes place in Neverwinter Wood, and has locations like Cragmore Castle and Mount Hootnow. And there's just one adventure that they've announced so far. There's going to be another one later in the year.
Yeah. It feels like this one's a lot further along. They know what they're using. They've got existing systems, and they're just going to be slapping a D&D skin on it. And good to go. Bit of writing. Happy days.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, yeah.
I'm interested in those. I think I might check them out, see what I think.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing, by the way, just to say that they're using an existing game. I think it's quite good, actually, because that means it will work.
You know it works, yeah.
Well, fingers crossed, that it's been bug tested and yada yada yada. So
yeah. Right then. Right. So, would you like a job at Wizards of the Coast?
No, thank you.
No, okay.
Good.
I was about to offer you one.
That's nice.
But you've already offered me a job, and
the salary range is 150 to 200k.
Do I have to live in America?
I think you have to live in Seattle.
Oh, hard pass.
Nah, you're good, mate.
Not that they'd let me in my immigrantness. No. I don't think, but
they might let you in and then send you off to a concentration camp in tropical country. So,
but we digress, Russ.
Yes,
what is the news?
So the news is Wizards of the Coast has 2 jobs advertised right now. They are principal game designer and head of game ecosystem.
Wow.
So we know that Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins both left recently. So I'm guessing they're kind of replacing those.
These are some senior sounding roles.
Yes.
Game designer, that sounds pretty heavy if you're like going to try and do that for D&D, because like there's a lot of expectations riding on getting it just right.
Yeah. The internet will tell you you're wrong.
Well, I mean, the internet's going to tell me I'm wrong anyway. I pay no attention to them.
The principal game designer leads the execution of Dungeons and Dragons major product releases, spanning analog and digital expressions, may include setting content, rules adjacent systems, adventures, and platform native features.
Okay, that sounds about right, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the head of game ecosystem is driving the complete design and evaluation of the D&D game system, ensuring consistency across all game releases, both physical and digital.
Okay.
So I'm guessing that's almost like a brand manager, but instead of the brand, you're doing that with D&D mechanics.
I guess.
Yeah, it feels like you're sort of doing canon and balance to make sure that to make sure that your Ravenloft stuff is not wildly overpowered compared to, say, your Dragonlance. And there's a degree of cross compatibility.
That's an interesting job for somebody that lives in America and is interested in that. What are the job requirements for this, out of interest? So people are listening, like, I could do that.
I don't know.
For example,
I click on it and it opens up on a LinkedIn thing, but I don't have a LinkedIn account. So it just chucks me out.
Okay, it's not for us to know.
Notes that it's a role-playing game. How hard can it possibly be? Like,
yeah,
I mean that's true. We all do it on this podcast, you know.
Yeah.
Or so we claim.
I might have proof later. Anyway, moving on.
I actually do zero designing, so
that's true.
I occasionally copy and paste things and group them together in a pile and show it to Russ and be like, this should be a book. This pile of things I have
then
made.
you hand it to me and say, is there any chance you could edit that just to tidy it up a little bit? And I have a look at it and start to edit it.
I never said tidy it up a little bit.
What it actually is entirely right, a 300-page book.
Yeah, I'd like to correct what I said. I didn't say edit it a little bit. I said, this is what I have done. Take a look at it. What do you think? Obviously, it needs editing and work and stuff. And you're like, yeah, I could probably do that in a month or so. And then you actually start doing it. You're like, this is going to be more than a month, Jess.
3 months, actually, to me.
6.
But it's done now. It's done. Anyway,
sounds good.
That wasn't the only job move type thing that happened this week. So over at Chaosium, you know that Mike Merles was executive producer from RPGs.
Oh,
yes.
You're using the past tense for his
Chaosium.
Yes,
I'm using the past tense because he has just moved to a full-time role at Asmodee.
Okay.
They
are shipping people, aren't they?
They're a distributor, but they also a publisher. They've got their hands in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I assume producing RPGs again, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I do know that taking over from him is Brian Holland, who was the marketing director at Chaosium, is now the executive producer.
See, well, congratulations to Brian Holland.
Yeah, and they've also got a new CEO, Neil Robinson.
Oh.
How would I know Neil Robinson? What?
Or
would I not?
He's an internal promotion. He was chief operations officer.
Okay, within the company. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I was just thinking if he had moved from somewhere, and I was trying to think, and I did not know.
Yeah. I mean, there are others. There's about 5 other different changes, various things, but those
are
big
the
main
ones.
ones. Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah. Lots of changes over at Chaosium.
A little bit of interesting news there.
It is.
I note that this week we don't appear to have any tariff talk updates.
No.
Well, that's good. So things are staying as they are currently.
But we do have a topic to revisit.
Oh,
I know. Okay.
Oh, no. Oh, I can't. Nice things have come up again.
We just had a whole load of nice things.
Okay.
Well,
let's switch yours around.
Let's watch this video. So this was a video. So City State of the Invincible Overlord. The Blacker kit has launched, and we'll look at that in a second because it's doing very well. This is a 8-minute video, which is basically promoting what's inside the box. However, right at the beginning of the video, Joseph Goodman wants to address some of the controversy that we've been discussing and others have been discussing. Basically, what he's saying is that Goodman Games' actions have been misrepresented on the internet.
Okay.
But I'll let you hear it from his own.
Let's hear his side.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joseph Goodman of Goodman Games. We recently announced our City State of the Invincible Overlord crowdfunding project for 5e and DCCRPG. In the video you're about to see, some of our product development team is going to tell you about what makes the City State so amazing and why we're bringing it back to 5e and DCC audiences nearly 50 years after it was first released. It really is an amazing setting. But we could have rolled this project out with a lot more clarity. Now, to be clear, Goodman Games absolutely opposes any sort of bigotry, racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, transphobia. We don't want to support it. We don't want to be associated with it. Our well-intentioned effort to launch this project in a way that refunds backers of a former failed Kickstarter from another publisher kind of backfired the way we announced it. But rest assured, the funds from this crowdfunding will actually fund refunds to backers of the original City State crowdfunding for the Pathfinder edition from 2014. Unfortunately, our efforts have been, I didn't clarify them perfectly when we rolled it out, and they've been mischaracterized by some folks since then. But please rest assured, we stand for inclusivity and diversity. You can read a lot more detail in the post that's linked below, and there's another video linked below where we talk about this in even more details. But for now, we hope you will sit back and enjoy as some of the product development team tells you about really what makes the City State of the Invincible Overlord so amazing and why you might want to check it out when it comes to crowdfunding soon.
There we go.
Okay.
He was talking for a solid 80 seconds there and said, no, it's just a big mistake, except for the bit which we knew about, which was that they're going to be refunding the backers of the Judges Guild Kickstarter.
He did mention there would be links to an article he's written. Does that clarify things further?
Yes, underneath the video, there's no link to an article, so I don't know if he's referring to one of the previous statements that they've posted. I'm guessing that's what is meant there, but it's not actually linked under the video, so I don't know 100% for sure.
No. But I'm sure there are some people who got the wrong end of the stick and said completely different things about what they're actually doing, but I don't think there's been a misrepresentation. We're pretty clear on what is going on. We're just baffled as to the reasoning behind it.
Well, the only misrepresentation I can think of was when their business partner, basically Bob Bledsaw, the second of his name, said that Goodman Games would be making the I can't remember what it was called, a fanzine. What was it called? Dungeoneer. And Joseph Goodman said, no, that's not true. So that's I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of as to
maybe there's
mischaracterization that I'm aware of.
Maybe there's been social media comments on threads on their posts.
I've been reading.
I mean, I haven't seen them all, so I can picture people saying they're doing this because they're secretly lizards that hate. Because the internet does be like that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been reading the social, the Twitters and the Facebook comments about it, so I couldn't tell you
because of Doctor Who spoilers.
All I can tell you is what we've said, but I feel like we've definitely, accurately, summed up what's been said and done.
Yeah. We've been following this for a while, though, and I know you reached out a few times for a response, but have they not been available for that, or?
So I emailed Joseph Goodman. He responded to me last week, just saying, "Hi, good to hear from you. How can I help?" This was before we left for UK Games Expo. I responded saying, I'd really love to do an interview with you. It could be a video or a text-based one. It'd be really nice. I'm not going to be confrontational. I'm not going to try and, any gotchas or catch it out, anything like that. I just would really love to give you the opportunity to explain your thinking, where you're coming from on it. And I'd like to try and understand, how you came to make the decisions that you did. I'm not going to be aggressive and attack, or we'd
like to know what the thinking is, really.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there is just because we can't think of an explanation, we really don't have all the information. Maybe there's some missing piece of a puzzle which will make it better somehow. I don't know. But it seems hard, but
I haven't had a response. No, that was basically that was over a week ago. I sent that, so I'm guessing that's a no, I guess. But the offer is out there.
Okay. Because for me, I'm just it's unclear, because they said very clear their views. They're like, they're anti all these bigotry things. They don't want to be associated with things like that. But working with Judges Guild and doing this project is associating to that. So that feels like a contradiction. So I'm wondering where my misunderstanding in that, because he clearly doesn't view it that way. So I'm wondering where what am I missing?
Yeah, to me, that's what the word association means. If you're working with somebody who's you're associating with them, and so
and I understand the motivation for saying it's going to be paying off a Judges Guild project, but that does benefit the Judges Guild company, because it means they'll have a project cleared on Kickstarter. Also,
it's not Goodman Games' responsibility to do so.
Yeah.
I mean,
pay off somebody else. I get that they might think it's a good PR move and make people more likely to back their Kickstarter, and it's a loss. They've calculated it and said, okay, this will cost us this. We don't have to do it. It will cost us this, but it will benefit us. And we'll be better off long run if we do this. Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, I do try and keep some eye on business, and it seems to me that taking responsibility for an $85,000 Kickstarter from 11 years ago that has nothing to do with you and is to do with a company managed by someone who is unrepentantly bigoted, that does seem like an association that you could avoid making. It's like, you could just not do this and still make tons of money.
Well, I mean, it's not really harming their crowdfunder.
Oh, okay.
Look at that. That was yesterday.
That's why they're doing it.
So it's approaching $500,000. It's a very short one. I'm surprised it was a 7-day crowdfunder. Very short.
Question.
Yes. You don't have to put your hand up.
But I want to.
Okay.
Did they not, Goodman Games, not say that they were limiting the amount of people that could back this so they couldn't make money off it, so they wouldn't have to give a profit percentage to Judges Guild?
Yes.
And the Kickstarter that they're refunding to is 85 grand.
Yes.
Yes.
So 10%, as I understand it, goes to Judges Guild. So 85 grand times 10.
Okay.
850 is kind of where you'd expect them to have put the cutoff.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that was my not understanding. Fair enough. Carry on.
Yeah, but it's clearly not suffering one iota from. This is going to be their best ever Kickstarter, I think.
That is less than 2,000 backers, and that is a lot of money. So that must mean the pledge tiers are a high value.
So here we go. So you want the print edition?
Okay. Yeah.
You're looking at $200. If you want the PDF, you're looking at $130.
Okay, but that's for.
There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's 800 pages of content for 130. Yeah. If I saw that under the crowdfunding, I'd be like, yeah. 800
now,
pages
as you can see on that screenshot I just put up there, it's got those, but it's also, you can see that they're limited. You can see there's only a certain number remaining.
Oh, so they have done that limitation to make sure that the final. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot remaining. 1,429 print edition and 717 PDFs. And that's only 2 of those, because there's 5e versions and DCC versions. And I've shown you the print DCC and the print 5e there. There's also the PDF 5e. There's also a PDF DCC and a print 5e as well. But they're the same prices, so I just showed the 2.
Well, had a marketing tactic, it appears to have got everyone talking about it, because we might have mentioned it and then not really think about it. And instead they've had several weeks of publicity, so I guess there is no such thing as bad publicity.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, my thought is that 90% of the people backing it probably aren't even aware of the conversation going on at the moment.
They just love Dungeon Crawl Classics and have this nostalgia product. They probably saw an advertising thing on their feed or whatever, or signed up to it and been like, "Oh, cool." I can imagine that is true.
Yeah. So Rai versus the World in the chat there says, "Are the previous backers likely to get everything they put in back?" Don't know. One would assuming that this crowdfunder raises enough, which it clearly is going to. One would assume so, but I don't know for sure. I don't know exactly how it works. I think the information is there on their crowdfunding page if you want to go and read it. But I think you have to apply for a refund because, how old was that Kickstarter? Like
11 years.
2014, so 11 years ago.
Yeah, and Kickstarter only stores the customer data for 1 year, and then you can't access it anymore. So Goodman Games won't have access to that data. So you'd have to actually apply to Goodman Games and say, "I would like." See, that's the other thing. So. Not everybody will do that because that's just how the world works. Like a lot of those 10 people from 10 years ago would have just disappeared and won't even be aware anything is going on. So not everybody's going to ask for a refund, despite being entitled to one.
Yeah.
So there will be funds left over, and they've said that any funds left over they do have to give to Judges Guild contractually. They can't just keep it.
Right.
So Judges Guild are going to make some money out of this because some people just aren't going to.
Seems unavoidable. Yeah. I mean, 11 years is a long ass time. Especially in RPGs. Yeah. Like we've had two editions of Hasbro's Dungeons and Dragons, another 3 editions of other versions of Dungeons and Dragons, a whole 2nd edition of Pathfinder. I think the first one was a Pathfinder thing. So the chances that somebody, and without an email, and I mean, people's email addresses change, work emails change. Who's working at the same company 11 years later? It's like huge amounts of change.
Actually, my other half is, funnily enough, they're one weird person I know who's worked at the same place for a very long time.
I am too.
Oh yeah, so you are.
No,
because
who told you a person? Oh,
yeah.
Me,
I guess. Fair enough.
Yeah, I know. But so Judges Guild are definitely going to profit off this. It seems hard to understand how they would not.
Yeah, I agree.
And there we go. And that's the news.
That's the news on there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in theory, that's not going to quite make $1 million then. If they have capped it at 10 times because they're giving 10% to Judges Guild, it's going to hit 850 and then in theory stop. But
Well,
I don't know how you can
chump.
calculate that exactly because you don't know which combinations of rewards people are going to buy.
I guess that's chump change, isn't it? Just imagine just not even having $1 million, just having 850k. Might as well not bother.
You'd have to dry your tears with these big piles of dollars.
Yes.
Oh, right. Let's move on. Let's talk about White Wolf.
Oh, I don't know about this article. Tell me more.
Okay, so Paradox.
Yes.
A while ago, Paradox Interactive.
Ooh.
The video game company which owns White Wolf these days.
Got it.
Yes.
Rebranded a few years ago White Wolf to World of Darkness because of a couple of, let's say, missteps that took place.
Minor diplomatic incidents, international diplomacy, just regular TCRPG company stuff.
Yeah. So in fact, there were two. One was I can't remember what they were actually. It was like 5-6 years ago. I don't know if you recall.
They managed to annoy Russia, and that was at a time when people cared about it,
wasn't it?
Yeah,
or was
that
it
sounds
Croatia?
right.
Oh, it was
Chechnya is more likely. That sounds right. I can't remember all the details. And they also had one of the guys, if memory serves, who was working on Lamentations of the Flame Princess, was somehow involved in doing it, and there was all this like weird use of essentially Nazi dog whistles, like we're just going to throw in 1488s in here, which will get if you put that in your I remember it. Daryl, alas, would be able to tell us more. He's got an excellent memory for this thing, and he was who pointed out to me, and there was some very unsavory stuff going on, even in a game system that is known for adult themes. There's stuff which people were like, "Oh, that is really grim."
Okay.
And,
So anyway, so they rebranded White Wolf to World of Darkness, and of course they now license the game lines to Renegade Game Studios, who's currently producing the World of Darkness material.
I like that system.
So what they're doing now is branding back to White Wolf.
And
they're bringing development in-house. With, it appears, the opportunity for Renegade Game Studios to continue making products compatible with, still as a licensee, but the sort of core development oversight is coming back in-house. And so these are sort of three of the games that they're sort of very much talking about at the moment. So Vampire the Masquerade, Mage Ascension, and Changeling the Dreaming.
Would you like me to give you like a little off the cuff précis of these various games?
I mean, I know what Vampire is. I think
Vampire.
The other two I'm not so familiar with.
Yeah, you have like Vampire. It's all clans as class, and there are lots of very exciting disciplines like potence and celerity, and they all have these very cool names, and they let you do wild and wacky things with rolling D10 dice balls. And you're basically superheroes with fangs. Is that how it's often run? Which is quite the contrast with how the book describes it as being run. But anyway, Mage, I have definitely played a Mage game. I described things happened. My storyteller told me to roll a number of dice, and I did. Exactly how it worked, I shall never know. It's maybe not for me, but it's all about.
It's the same system, then, presumably, isn't it? Aren't they all the same system?
You'd think that now, wouldn't you? Like,
I don't know if they are or not.
It is a D10 dice pool system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Without doubt. It's got a lot of the same things. I assumed I'd be able to actually understand what was going on at some point because of familiarity with that and things like Exalted. But no, I was wrong. But essentially, there's one set of people who've taken over the Earth, and their expression of technology is through. Their expression of magic is through technology. Right. They're sort of like techno wizards. And then there's a whole bunch of other traditions who don't like that and are trying to change the world to have it be their way. And those people are the heroes, more or less. It's an interesting setting. I know less about it because I tend to lose track when people start talking about it. Whereas Vampire, I did the LARP a couple of times, which and Changeling is quite fun because essentially you have been stolen. You were stolen by fairies. You start off in fairy having been stolen, and you're escaping back into the real world, but you're still being pursued because they'd like to take you back, please. Well, actually, they're not saying please. They're just saying we're going to take you back. So yeah, all pretty interesting conceptually, and there's a whole number of others as well, which were very cool ideas, which I've got to play, including Werewolf, which was very environmentally focused.
Yeah, Werewolf's the other one that I would know. Yeah. But so that's the three that they've got sort of like in the front of their minds at the moment, but not obviously that's not everything they're going to do. I think that's interesting. Christian Hobb asked him because there's a big interview on EN World with Jason Carl, and it did ask whether there was going to be a Vampire 6th edition. And their answer to this was, that's a question we've been asking ourselves for quite some time. I ask myself that maybe at least once a week. I think we should be guided by our audience on what they want and need from us. So I guess that's a not as yet not decided situation.
Yeah.
I guess.
I mean, I would be quite interested in hearing what the latest lore is, because they had at least 3 editions. I sort of lose track. There was the first edition, I really liked the lore, but the game was terrible, as I understand it. Second edition, the game was much better, but the lore was much worse. I think there's been another 3 editions. So
yeah.
I don't know. There's stuff going on here.
That's traditionally how numbers work.
Yeah. Thank you for that insight, Raz.
I mean, they did mention that actually. He said a consistent request they get is that players and storytellers would like to have a bit more meta plot information, which is basically the lore. They said they went meta plot light with 5th edition. It's there, more subtle, and a lot of the information is more obscure.
Yes.
So and also there's stuff going on in comic book series and wikis and various different places. They're not just a role-playing game; they're a multimedia property.
And a few months ago, they were hiring a brand manager for this, weren't they? I remember earlier this year.
I don't recall.
I'm not 100% confident, but I feel I remember it might have been for Vampire the Masquerade to be the brand manager for that across all their platforms. Anyway, I'm not confident, so I'm going to leave it there.
Fair enough. Sounds reasonable.
Thank you.
So White Wolf going back in house, being renamed White Wolf.
When I hear White Wolf, I just think of like Bad Wolf and Doctor Who. I always get them confused.
Oh, I've got very strong associations with White Wolf. Actually, like my wife's first role-playing game was Exalted, which is not everyone's first role-playing game. I'll tell you that.
It's not. As I ask everyone every Monday on Not D&D what their first role-playing game was, I know for a fact that is not a common choice.
So my association with White Wolf was like in the probably early 90s, I guess, when I was quite D&D focused. There was a bunch of my friends that were really, really, really White Wolf focused, and it was almost like a partisan divide. Almost, it was the D&Ders and the White Wolfers, and that was basically the gaming industry. At least, anecdotally in my sphere. And like the White Wolfers thought the D&D players were incredibly uncool, and the D&D players thought the
White Wolf players were a bunch of posers.
Yeah, a bunch of posers.
Nicely.
Yeah.
Bloom punk posers, as we might say nowadays. Yeah, emos, a lot of them.
Who knows? Yeah.
But I think the nerd world's always been a bit like that. Like you have board gamers, they'll look down on tabletop role players and be like, oh, they're a bit weird because they sit around and do silly voices and things like that. And then you get the tabletop role playing groups that are like, oh, but yeah, we're not LARPers, we're not weird like that. They dress up and run around and things. That's all weird. So there's historically been this thing, and then the LARPers, I don't know what they do. They're just like, oh, we're having fun, we don't care.
A hierarchy of geekdom. Just about how uncool you are based on this hierarchy of geekdom.
Yeah,
it's got things like IT and people who work in IT in there, and it's got all sorts of things. People who play tabletop games of different types, people who watch different types of shows, people who watch anime, people who are into Star Wars is kind of like at the top because it's kind of quite mainstream, and then it kind of spreads out. I think we're quite low in the chart. I think us role
Yeah,
players are
and
quite
that's
low in the chart.
okay. I'm very fine with not being cool. That's for a long time. That's not been my agenda to try and be, as people may be aware.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I get to have fun and play games, I'm pretty happy, to be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds reasonable to me.
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I would, you big nerd.
That's true.
Shall we talk about where we were last week?
Let's do it.
Yes, please.
Look, that's our stand just before the show opened. We'd finished building it. We built it on the Thursday. The show opened at 9 a.m. So this would have been taken about 8:30 a.m. on Friday, just before it opened. And we're just putting everything in place there.
Yeah. I'm just wondering who that is Jess is talking to.
That's Dave.
That is Dave, who volunteered for the Weekend Help Out and is a podcast listener. Thank you for volunteering.
Good work, Dave.
But yeah. So that was me explaining how the till works, I think, and how we're running things behind the scenes.
Possibly. So we were at UK Games Expo last week.
Yes.
It was a big show. I feel like, well, it was bigger because I know that they're up 7% over 2024, and we've got some nice fun stats about various conventions and how big each one is. More than 42,000 people were there. Unique attendees, not turnstile, were there this year.
Good Lord.
A lot of people. This makes it the third largest tabletop gaming convention in the world. The top one being Ascension in Germany.
Yeah.
And the second one being Gen Con.
Wow. Yeah. So big hitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, UK Games Expo and Origins Game Fair kind of used to run like leapfrog each other constantly each year, but UK Games Expo is definitely sort of streaking ahead now. So basically the biggest one in the world is Essen Spiel by far.
Yeah.
204,000 attendees.
Yeah. That is, I feel. Sorry, Jessica. I'll let you speak.
No, that's fine. As I said, I've been a few times and it is so much bigger. There's so many halls, but it has a very different vibe because Essen is very much you're going in the halls, you're going to buy your stuff. It's in Germany. It's very efficient. The people that are going have a plan. They know what they want to watch. They know what they want to play, and they know what they want to buy, and they have lists. Whereas Gen Con, I think, has a lot more stuff to do outside of trade hall things. Like they have loads of events. They have LARPs going on. They have more role playing. And UK Games Expo does have a lot of events in the evening. They have a whole role-playing area where our stickers were on the floor. So they have got different vibes despite being varying sizes. But Essen being the biggest one very much feels like you go and do shopping and then in all the hotels, people happen to be playing board games. It's not a huge amount of
Gen Con's a bit like that as well. If you're in Indianapolis and you go into any hotel in the sort of like downtown area, every single lobby of every hotel is filled with people gaming. But Indianapolis really rolls the carpet out for the gamers. There's like signs everywhere saying "Welcome, gamers," and there's special. Every restaurant changes its menu to have like beholder steaks and stuff. So they really embrace it. I mean, they're a convention city. It's what they do. The next week they'll do the same for NASCAR. Do you know what I mean? They'll do it, and then some kind of football team the week after. Whatever they're doing that week, they're used to it. That is.
Whereas UK Games Expo, like the local hotels might, if you're lucky, hire an extra bar person.
The premier in,
if you're lucky, don't get used to it.
So Gen Con last year had 71,000 attendees.
Ooh,
that's a lot more, And
we've got UK Games Expo on 42,000. Next is PAX Unplugged at 30,000.
Oh.
This is an estimate because they don't actually provide figures, but there are ways of determining it. But 30,000 ish, and then Origins Game Fair in at number 5 at 17,706 exactly.
Wow, interesting stuff.
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Yeah.
I would have thought, like, if you'd like said, here's this conventions, which you think is bigger, I would not have put UK Games Expo at number 3. I'd have thought PAX would just like easily outsize them.
Oh no, well not yet, but PAX is getting bigger and bigger quite quickly.
Yeah, I mean, because I understand it's all like computer games as well. Which I thought would
UK Games Expo is expanding to 3 halls next week from the 2 it currently is. So who knows?
Nice.
So Yeah, I mean, it felt bigger to me, but that might have just been because I'm used to the old layout, so I got lost quite a bit trying to.
Yeah, we're usually in Hall 1, and we're in
Mm.
Hall 3 this year, so
Oh, no. Okay. But that would
Yeah.
be quite.
Well, Hall 1 was booked for 6 years by Tesla. Apparently, this is what I heard, which is why UK Games Expo had to move. And then, kind of at the last minute, Tesla cancelled. So, which is why Hall 1
for
was
some
empty pretty
reason.
much the entire time we were there. Just this big empty hall. And apparently, UK Games Expo stepped in and said, right, well, we'll have it back next year and going forward then.
Mm.
As I heard. Yeah. And also, there was a Kylie Minogue concert on next door in one of the other halls.
Oh.
Yes, because we went out for dinner on Saturday night and we were trying to get back to the hotel. Oh. And we kept calling Ubers and the Ubers kept cancelling on us.
Oh.
That's quite frustrating because of all the Kylie Minogue fans.
Right.
There was like those police everywhere and barricades and
I see.
Lots of people wearing sequin dresses. Lots of
What a dream.
She's a goddess and a diva, so you know.
Mm.
Well, I missed that night out because the team.
You were running a game, yeah.
I was running a game, so yeah, I missed that. By the time I finished the game, the Kylie Minogue fans had left, and there was Ubers aplenty for me to get home, so it's fine. Yeah, so I ran Level Up Advanced 5th Edition. I did Valley of Misfortune, and it was great because I run that a lot, and it's one of my conventions. It's one of those games you're like, I've got a one shot for this. It's like 8 or 9 locations they can go to, so it's always different when I run it for me. But I know I'm familiar enough with it that it's not stressful to run. And this group were no different. They were very, they were far more investigative, and than any other group I've had. And they had some really lucky rolls with some of their investigations. Like we had some like natural 20 crits on early lore rolls, so they knew a lot that was going on going in, which changed the vibe of their journey. Yeah, but it was really good fun and I had a nice time. And I like running convention games because you get to meet different people and so, and it's made me want to run an A5E little campaign because I was like, oh, I do like this.
Yeah, I want to run a Void Runner campaign, definitely. But anyway, back
to yeah.
Well, I would definitely prefer to do it in person though, rather than zooming it. But anyway, that's aside. We can talk about that off the show. Okay. So no, I did ask Kylie to because Peter wasn't at UK Games Expo and we did the podcast. I did ask Kylie to step in.
She was a bit intimidated by the size of the audience.
Well, she came, but she just didn't look quite how I expected.
Oh,
yeah, she remarkable resemblance to Andy Peregrine.
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, I recognise that.
Who very kindly stepped in at the last minute to just sit there and talk about the news and talk a little bit about working in the gaming industry, how he got work and what it's like for him to work as a freelancer these days, and the various projects that he's worked on. But we also covered the news as usual. We had many people in the audience. Many people.
Yes.
I can definitely count them on one hand, but many people in the audience.
Yeah, I think you need to.
There were 5 people.
Amazing.
Anyway. But but we managed to actually record it and publish it this year. So we're on the up from previous years when recording did not work.
That is true.
There's a lot of wires and stuff going on in that setup though. It's
well, luckily Andy is a theatre sound and light engineer.
But even he looked at it and wasn't immediately like, this is what's happening. He was like, oh, let me have a look. And I was like, okay, I feel vindicated that I looked at this and was like, what is happening? But yes.
Yeah. Well, I think we're pretty much coming to the end of the news. I think we had something about some morale news to talk about. Rules for morale.
Oh, yes. That would be my stuff. Essentially...
Oh, sorry. Can I just rewind very quickly?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to somebody.
Yes. Amazing.
So, is it Bonhomie or Bonhomie? I don't know how you pronounce
Bonhomie.
it.
Yeah.
Bonhomie Games
yes.
came to the stand and gave us some gifts.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which was absolutely bloody lovely of them. I've been talking about wanting the Moria map, the Mines of Moria cloth map on the podcast recently. And Jess, you got a book there?
Yeah, the Winds of Magic. It's the Warhammer Fantasy System one, and it's the nice fancy version as well, which I was very surprised to get, which is very kind. But yes.
Yeah, no, that was I was blown away by that. That's never happened to me before. I was completely it was really, really, really very kind. That's the you can't see a great deal of detail there, but that's the cloth map.
Yeah.
It looks a bit blurry and undetailed there, but it isn't. It's very detailed, and you can see.
So you've got a One Ring campaign to run then.
Aren't you playing one soon? Didn't you say?
I will be when my Warhammer Fantasy one ends, which will be at some point. We've been so close to the end for about 6 months because so it's one of those campaigns. Because it's fine.
Hear me out. Void Runners Codex using Mines of Moria.
That would be I think that would be the definition of a genre mash. Yeah, thank you for all the people that came along to and bought stuff at the event and said hi. And if you're one of the 5 people that came to the live recording, thank you. It's really great to get to meet people in person because we sit in our little houses recording this and writing the news, putting it out, and obviously making games and stuff. So you can feel quite detached, like it's a process that happens on your computer and not in real life. So it's really nice to meet people and play games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to next year. But if everybody could please wash their hands and not attend if you're ill, I would really love that. Anyway,
back to morale rules.
Oh, yes. I've been thinking about morality, as is my wont, and it occurs to me, and also about how to make games faster of D&D. In general, not just Advanced 5th Edition. And part of that, and also reading an excellent blog called A Collection of Unmitigated Pedantry by Brett Devereaux, which I thoroughly recommend. It's got a whole section going through the campaign of Saruman to attack Helm's Deep, and also the Ringwraith to attack Gondor. So, if you're a big nerd, I'm going to put my hands up to that one, then it's very, very cool. And part of that was it's talking about the way warfare has generally been waged is you're not out to annihilate everyone. You're there to fight them until they run away.
Yeah.
And since everything is much easier to design in Advanced 5th Edition, do you have a little screenshot of anything?
I do not, unfortunately. It wasn't.
Okay. No
I'd done the slides by the time I saw it, so.
Not to worry. So basically, very simply, there's 2 parts. There's a combat part, which is like a DC 10 charisma roll, and there's various things. That will add for One Homie Games.
Yes, One Homie Games is
they're a store.
That's what I was trying to do.
Oh,
there we go.
Amazing, thank you. So it's a free download. Comes in 2 parts. The first part is morale check. And a morale check is a DC 10 charisma check as charisma saving throw, where you have disadvantage, advantage, and various levels of expertise dice, including the hindrance dice, which is a thing of my own creation. It's not very complicated. It's basically a negative expertise dice, which I know Russ hates with all his heart.
I do.
Yeah. It's okay.
I had negative expertise dice removed from the quarrels.
I understand. But you didn't get the Bane spell, and that's important. Anyway, which in fact gives you negative expertise dice. Anyway, but yeah, so you do that, and that means that at the start of a fight, people are less likely to run away, and at the end of the fight, they're more likely to run away, unless you do something extremely big and impressive to them at the start. So you'd have disadvantage if you took damage before you got your turn, or if you were unable to move, like you'd been paralyzed already or something, and were taking damage. That's very bad for your morale, and you're more likely to run away. I put some conditions in, like being broken, which is you're basically frightened and must move away and drop your weapons. And it's just a way to make so that when one side is obviously won, you don't have a goblin saying, I will fight you on the beaches, I will fight you on the shore, I will never. So, and just like, no, change of plan, that's scarf and run away. But without having that goblin then become a recurring NPC that returns to stab people in a tedious fashion, because that's very boring. The second part of it deals with a common problem for games masters or narrators or dungeon masters, whatever you want to call them, which is you got some bandits, they come up, they start saying, oh, yeah, money or your life. And rather than going according to plan and rolling initiative, the players attempt to talk their way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm using the framework of an expertise challenge. So it's a group check where they're all trying to work together to either persuade, deceive, or intimidate the roadmen from hassling them. And if they, if they can't agree on an approach, if they go with some people are trying to persuade them nicely and other people are intimidating them or trying to, that looks a bit weak. So it's like, working together as a roleplay thing to tell them to, off your hop, and then various different degrees of critical success, failure, and critical failure. It's 3 pages long. It's probably something that people are doing already, but I feel it can add to your game. And the best thing about it, there are 2 really good things about it. One, it's Creative Commons, so you can use it commercially. That's fine. It's a CC BY 4.0. And the second thing is they're player-facing rules. So you can give them to your players. They can say, oh, so we should try and do some tactics and so forth. And that just adds automatically to every fight you do.
And this is free.
And it is free, which is...
The price you can't argue with.
About it. I did figure it's priced to move, but it's just like, it's my contribution to people and like helping making new GMs' lives easier, because I like people to be able to run games. My games master quite likes the rules, so I know there must be up to something. Yeah.
Fab. Well, thanks for that. Yeah, I'll put the links in the show notes there, so if people want to grab that for free and have a look through and read. And it looks like there's bits and pieces you can take as you like with most of Level Up. You can, choose the elements you like. If you're like, actually, this bit is really good, I'm going to take that. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
cool.
I don't mind. It's it's out there. It's yours. Go play it and have fun. And if you don't like it, then okay, I don't mind.
Then 100% refund on your free download.
Yeah.
Right, I think we're at the end of the news now. I just want to call out Bon Homie Games' website, bonhomiegames.uk.
Yes.
Which, thank you for our gifts. They've got a great store if you're in the UK. So they're visiting them and, possibly buying some gaming stuff from them.
But you can buy online as well. They do board games and all sorts of RPGs.
Including Level Up and What's Old is New.
Well, there you go. So thanks very much to Joe and Chris at Bon Homie Games. We very much appreciate it. And I'm really sorry to have missed you. It's just unavoidable.
Right, I think we're done. I think that's the week.
Yes, let's go. I can return to my plague pit.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, bless you.
Yeah, it is the weekend. It is actually pouring now in the rain out there at the moment, I think.
Yeah, it's going to do that all weekend in the UK.
Wonderful. Well, at least I don't need to water my garden. Excellent.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We'll see you next week when we will be here talking about the latest tabletop RPG news.
Yes, we will be. All right, then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.
All the tabletop role-playing news, we aim to amuse and we aim to enthuse. And Morrus is unofficial tabletop RPG.